Welcome to the Shotmaker podcast. This podcast is all about you and your mindset. There are so many things out there that we can't control, but this podcast is all about digging into what we can control and learning from operators, owners, thought leaders who all believe that it is all about mindset. Welcome to the Shotmaker podcast. I am joined today by Trip Ruvane, founder of Barley Creek Brewing Company. Trip, thank you so much for joining us.
And I'm delighted to be here, and I would be remiss if I didn't say co-founder, because my wife Eileen,
yes,
is really much more talented than I am.
Yes, no, definitely.
Thanks.
No, we're so excited to be here. For those of you that don't know, Barley Creek sits at the base of the Camelback Mountain in the Pocono Mountain area and is an iconic brand. I think so many people that come skiing here, that vacation here, know your story. So share with us a little bit about your vision of Barley Creek when you started it. Like, what did you think it would be and all that?
Thanks. Yeah, it's, when we started, it was 26 years ago. So we opened up in 1995, and I had a little bit of finance background. So I was able to go ahead and put a business plan together. I had a friend who opened up a brew pub up in Portland, Maine, about 8 years before me. So the beginning of the brewing industry. And it's Gritty McDuff's. And I asked my buddy, hey, would you help me open this up? And he said, yes. That's the only help I got, except he was encouraging. And he encouraged me to go ahead and pursue this dream of being an independent, entrepreneurial operator of a brew pub. And so we found a piece of property in the Poconos on the road to Camelback ski area and very close to a pretty large retail outlet mall complex. And we kind of saw this happen in Portland, Maine, at the mouth of the Sunday River ski area. There's a Sunday River Brewing Company. Okay. And up in Freeport, Maine, there's the Freeport outlets, and there was a brewery there. I thought, well, if the brewery at the outlets is doing well in Maine, and if the brewery at the ski area in Maine is doing well, I've got a location where there's a ski area and an outlet on the same road. So that's how we picked this location. And we haven't regretted it. It's been a really good location. And our ultimate goal is just to make quality beer and now quality spirits, because we're a small distillery. And the other interesting part of the success equation or survival equation is to reinvest every year so that the guest comes back and thinks, wow, that's new, or boy, that's different, or that's better. And every once in a while, they'll come back and say, oh, I didn't really like that. So the sushi bar is gone.
Right.
the oyster bar is gone. So we've made mistakes, but we learn from them, and we have fun going to the restaurant show in Chicago. We have fun going to the show in New York City, the food show there. We have fun going to the Craft Brewers Conference or the American Distilling Conference. So wherever we can get good ideas from other people having fun, we're going to try and have more fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So
what do you think, because you started when, brewers were coming on, there was lots of competition. And then obviously there was a time where, the industry was really hurt in the early 2000s. What do you think made you guys stay consistent with your brand throughout all of the craziness of the last, 25 years?
Well, when we first opened up, almost every optometrist opened up a brewery, and, they didn't get it. I had worked for a British bank, and so I kind of knew what a proper pint was. And I also had that mentor from Gritty McDuff's gave me a lead to Peter Austin. And Peter Austin is Alan Pugsley, and that's the brewing system that we've got. And the ultimate goal is, how's the beer? Yeah. Now you say, well, how's the beer? What does that mean? Well, if you finish that beer and you order the same one, that means it was a good beer. That means you're willing to do that one again. Right. So how's the beer? As long as you're making a quality product and you are working hard to make that product consistent and maybe a little bit better each year, you're going to outlast the optometrist.
No, that's a very valuable lesson.
Or as you could say, I see.
Right. No, that makes sense. So fast forward to COVID, right? I think, some people might not realize we were together at the New York show March 8th, 2020.
Right.
And as the world was shutting down and the show was shutting down and our phones were blowing up, and who would have thought on that day, what happened after? But talk me through those early days of COVID and how you were able to kind of stay focused, stay, positive, going in the right direction in the midst of chaos.
Well, chaos is fun in the sense that it's challenging. And you're right. We were in New York City. We were at a convention. We were learning stuff. And you're right. Our phones were blowing up. And I think New York was the hotspot.
Yes. We were staying at hotels in Times Square and then not good.
So we get back into the Poconos, which we think is the safe spot. And we're told that, we have to close. Barley Creek has got a fantastic 6-acre piece of property. We also have a lot of catering opportunities at Barley Creek in our backyard, in our pavilion. So when we were told that things were going to shut down, but you could still do to-go and takeout, and you could eat outside, we just opened up our catering shed, got the tents out, set up the tents, moved our food truck, which was up here at the Pint-Sized Park, down into the main parking lot, and just essentially opened up a to-go empire. We took three of our delivery vehicles, which, one's a Suzuki, one's a Ford Transit that's almost dead. And then we've got a Ford Explorer that probably has some rust in it. But we got car toppers for that fleet. And then we had to interview which member of staff knows how to drive a stick shift. Right. And so all of a sudden we're delivering. And then we're like, oh, wait, I have a lot of staff. And these people, I want to keep them employed. How do we do this? So we heard through the grapevine that there's a shortage of hand sanitizer. So, all of a sudden repurpose our distillery and we take, these totes of, 190 proof and get the, World Health Organization formula. We go online with the FDA and we get licensed to go ahead and craft our hand sanitizer, which was a nightmare, but we got it. And then all of a sudden we're, the local hand sanitizer depot, which is fascinating because our biggest customer at that time was the Tobyhanna Army Depot. And those people are famous for repairing communication devices here in this neighborhood.
Right.
And so, we didn't have any Army pickup trucks. And most of the guys and gals were not in uniform, but it made me feel good that we were helping. Right. And our state senator would swing by and pick up a case or two of hand sanitizer, and then he'd drop it off at, his favorite local nursing home. So we felt like, this is good. And then every to-go order got a little bottle of hand sanitizer. So, I know this sounds a little crass, but so, as soon as the food's gone, I still have my label on your kitchen counter saying, call me again. I got hand sanitizer. Right.
No,
so it's like, okay, how do we get past this? And by keeping everybody employed, that really helped, especially, because we kept income coming in, but it wasn't the kind of income that we were expecting.
Right.
But some of our friends in Philadelphia, literally closed, like locked the door and, hey, folks, go collect unemployment. We tried very hard, and in fact, we succeeded in making sure that everybody who wanted to stay employed did.
Right.
And so, we're proud of that.
Yeah. I think what's incredible is, in your area or, wherever you are during that time period, there were so many people who didn't see what you saw. So talk to me a little bit about like the mindset that it took to not just say, we're going to close and lay everybody off. How did you keep your team believing that, we really were going to come out of this? Because I remember when we first started looking at sales again, maybe it was April, early May of 2020. And they were down, 50% from prior year, maybe even more than that. And yet, and your team always kind of kept this goal of, all right, that's okay. We're going to build it back. Every week's going to get better. we're going to get to, I think it was 75% by the end of the year. But you guys always had this vision of forward, which was incredible considering how many people just couldn't think like that.
Yeah, I have a young staff, and they're and all they needed was a cheerleader or a coach that said we can do this. And I went through what is it? Not the Great Recession, but that one was pretty interesting. And so a little bit of a wake up call had happened to me back in was it 2007?
Yeah.
And we were in the midst of a big expansion at the time, and all of a sudden the world fell apart. So we kind of went through a little bit of a soul-searching crisis control or crisis management. And essentially that's what this was. But the beauty, if there is a beauty of this, and there isn't, but this affected everyone.
Yeah.
As opposed to just that over-leveraged kid back in 2007.
Right.
This one was, hey, we're all in the same boat. Let's figure out what some of these other folks are doing. I'm part of the Pennsylvania Restaurant Lodging Association, and one of my fellow compatriots in this industry was making plastic dividers for patrons sitting at the bar.
Right.
And so, as soon as that rule came up, we were the first ones to have the coolest plastic dividers that allowed us to sit at the bar. And, when you're part of the, a restaurant, your state restaurant association, and if you're talking to these folks who are in the same boat as you are, you get ideas from them.
Right.
And some of the ideas were, okay, so you're not allowed to sit at the bar. But if the cocktail table is 4 inches away from the bar, then that would count. I don't know who's making up these rules. So essentially, I had, and you've met Stephanie a bunch of times. Stephanie is one of the most fantastic operators who will read, the newest set of rules coming down the pike and figure it out. I mean, today we just got a new rule. We're not allowed to sell CBD, over the counter, and you're not allowed to put it in alcoholic beverages. But licensed establishments were allowed to do that. Today, that's not the case.
Right.
So we're going to come up with we're going to come up with a way, because our friends up at Pocono Organics have a really interesting empire, and they're creating CBD products, and we're mixing CBD products into cider.
Right.
Now it's a non-alcoholic cider, so that's legal, but we're not allowed to sell it here at a licensed establishment. Okay, can we still make it?
Right.
If we can still make it, who's selling it? So we're going to try and figure this out. And, if it doesn't work, it'll fall into that pile of sushi.
Right.
That Barley Creek is more of an American restaurant, burgers and cheesesteaks and food truck, and not a lot of deep fried stuff, but we're always looking at what are some of the other possibilities.
Right.
So it's a mindset of you can learn from the past, but let's go to the future.
Yeah. Which I think has really, I think everything that you guys did during COVID has really created all of these new revenue streams for your business. And like you said, moving it forward in different directions. Because I think even now, what's interesting being in the Pocono region is you hear from a lot of business owners about, once COVID's over, are people going to go back to New York or back to New Jersey and get on planes again? And then they're not going to be here, to the amounts that they were here in the last couple of years. But what's interesting with you guys is you're still beating those records every week, right? You're kind of creating your own destiny, which I think is such a refreshing thing, and not worrying so much about the things that, we can't control, but really focusing on the things that you can, which is incredible.
Well, I think, everybody out there in podcast land, go get Warren Buffett's book, Snowball. And, if you just focus in on the things that you can control, and, our partnership with the Largo Group is kind of, hammering that home. Hey, these are the things that you can control with your finances, with your numbers, with your reporting, with your inventory, with the reports that you guys are generating for us to look at. You guys, Barley Creek, can control these facets of your numbers. So here's what I suggest you do. So the Largo Group has helped tremendously with that. And, you read, Warren Buffett's book or anybody else's management book for that matter. the goal is don't really worry about your competition. Know what they're doing, but focus in on your strengths. Go ahead and determine what your weaknesses are. And if they're really bad, jettison them
Right.
and go ahead and focus in on your strengths and your core ideas and core themes. So yeah, snowball is, I guess, the reference to, hey, when you're doing well, it kind of just grows.
Yeah.
The snowball gets bigger. Hopefully the quality of the snow is still good.
Right.
Which, by the way, this is the last weekend of skiing at Camelback, but that means the golf clubs come out.
Right.
So here we go again.
Yes, exactly. So switching gears a little bit to golf, another thing that's interesting is your mom was a phenomenal golfer, very highly ranked competitively, loved playing the game. You grew up playing the game. I love golf. So how would you say that influenced you as a business owner?
I think it's terrific. I mean, I like to do business with people who play golf by the rules.
Okay.
So I think golf is one of the more interesting ethical sports out there. And I'm probably going to get a lot of tennis balls thrown at me, but I think golf is a game of perfection and tennis is a game of mistakes. And I believe that if you embrace golf and the spirit of golf and the rules of golf, you're going to be a better business operator.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And if you practice enough, you're going to get better at golf. And if you practice enough with your relationships with your vendors, with your staff, with the community and maybe your investors, in that order, so to speak, you're probably going to do well in business, and you probably will get invited to a lot more golf outings.
Right. Definitely if you play by the rules.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. There's nothing worse than, having a nickname Left Foot. Right.
No. All right. Well, so what do you think is, on the path for the next 5 years? If you could go 5 years out, what do you see for Barley Creek?
I would like to, in terms of Barley Creek, I'd like to create about 5 more Stephs, and Steph is the operator. I'd like Steph to go ahead and figure out, how do we grow responsibly because we have the talent pool to go ahead and grow. So if there's another way to go ahead and double sales without taking that much of a risk, because our systems are in place, our procedures are in place, we're having fun, we've got a group willing to take on the responsibility and the accountability, then let's grow. And let's figure out what to do. Now, Barley Creek just bought the barn across the street. We've got 2 pieces of property down the road that currently are now like a VRBO or short-term rental. Quite frankly, because we own a restaurant, there's no reason to believe that they aren't bed and breakfasts.
Right.
So, I think we just went into the bed and breakfast business, and we're tweaking that. One of my original limited partners that we bought out, he and I, our respective spouses, just bought a 100-acre property not far from where we live and not far from Barley Creek. So we might see a winery. We might see a catering facility. We might see a larger distillery, because I think RTDs, or ready to drink cocktails, is going to be a little bit bigger almost every day. I think this week we're launching a transfusion in a 12-ounce can. We've already got, I think it was called a Moscow Mule, but I think we're going to call it Monroe Mule. So I think the Monroe Mule is going to get a new label. And then I think one of my favorites is our Pocono Punch. Yeah. And the Pocono Punch is, it's great. It's great. It's a vodka punch in a can. So, you take that anywhere you want.
Yeah.
So in terms of growth, boy, we have a lot of ideas, and I just hope our bankers can keep up with us.
Yes. And then, you mentioned the Warren Buffett books. Are there any other books that you have been reading recently or in the past that you draw on for inspiration?
I do like reading historical accounts of Thomas Edison. Was one of my favorites. I know 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb.
Right.
So anytime you can read historical books on what some inventors. I do enjoy, reading a couple of the restaurant books. Danny Meyer's Setting the Table, Anthony Bourdain. I do find myself hooked on, diners, drives, and dives. And I think that's kind of fun. And then I find myself fascinated with motivational speakers. And any chance I can, go to a convention and not go onto the floor and look at equipment, and maybe go into a seminar where, somebody is saying, this is what we did, to turn the company around. Case studies are some of my favorite, and Harvard does it. Babson, Entrepreneurial School Extraordinaire. When you can go ahead and read about somebody else's trials, tribulations, successes or failures, if you can pick up a gem so that you can avoid it or repeat it. In terms of reading, voracious when it comes to, the restaurant business magazines, national restaurant magazines, because there's always some story about, what that operator did who opened up instead of closing during COVID. They opened up 12 ghost kitchens, and became the biggest to-go barbecue place in Southern California. Okay, great. How do we do that? So in terms of reading, I guess the answer is you can never go wrong if you invest in yourself and a continuing education.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an awesome conversation, and best of luck to Barley Creek in the future.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks to the Largo Group.